Hello, my name's Simonize, and welcome to another Simonize Guide video. Today, I've got your Rogue PvE talent overview for the Burning Crusade. I'll go over the different talent specializations you can use and how they stack up against each other. But before we get into that, I'd like to shout out my Discord server. The link is on the screen now and in the description below. This is a great place to ask Rogue-related questions, stay up to date with the most recent Rogue Burning Crusade information, and you can access the spreadsheet that I both wrote and used to compare these talent specializations. Now, let's get into it. Your main talent specializations are going to be combat swords or a variant with a mace and a sword. These are the most powerful talent specializations you can use, so if you have the appropriate weapons, these are the ones you're going to want to pick. Now, if you have substantially more powerful non-sword weapons than you do your swords, you might want to use a Hemorrhage spec that takes talent points in all three talent trees. And finally, we have the Dagger specializations, Combat Daggers and Mutilate. Both of these talent specializations are about 10% behind the combat specializations with swords at similar item levels, so they're generally not desirable. You want to pick your talent specialization based on the best available weapons you own. So while those dagger specs are not in a vacuum as good as the sword specs, if you have substantially better daggers than you do swords, it may be the best pick. Now, if you want a very precise answer for what spec you should use with what weapons, you're going to need to load up a spreadsheet. But lucky you, you came to the right place. I wrote what I think is a very good spreadsheet for comparing different equipment and talent options for rogues in the Burning Crusade. You can input all your different equipment, enchants, gems, talents, and a couple other settings, and it'll give you an estimated damage output and a breakdown of where your damage is coming from. This is an excellent tool to use for rogues if you're trying to optimize your PvE performance. Now let's take a closer look at the Combat Swords talent specialization. You'll have 20 points in Assassination and 41 points in Combat. You'll be taking this Relentless Strikes, Lethality, Vile Poisons, a lot of good stuff in early Assassination, and all the good stuff in the later Combat tree. Sword Specialization, Weapon Expertise, Combat Potency, Surprise Attacks, all the good stuff. Combat Potency is a very important one. This gives your successful offhand melee attacks a 20% chance to generate 15 energy. Energy generation effects are very powerful. Because of this talent, you're going to strongly prefer fast offhand weapons, 1.4 and 1.5 speed. Anything slower than that is almost not even usable. Now, looking at these two weapons, Latro's Shifting Sword and Gladiator's Quickblade, at a glance you might say, wow, Gladiator's Quickblade is almost 20 DPS ahead of Latro's. Surely, Gladiator's Quickblade is better. But due to the speed difference of these weapons, even though there's such a substantial difference in their damage, these are about equal. That offhand weapon speed is remarkably important, both for combat potency and for sword specialization. That's the next talent that's a really big deal about your combat swords talent spec. It gives you a 5% chance to get an extra attack on the same target after hitting with a sword. Now in Classic, Sword Specialization interfered with your auto attacks. When it triggered, it would reset your auto attack swing timer, and this caused some reduction of value. In Burning Crusade, this has changed, so it does not interfere with your auto attack swings at all, and is a substantial boost to the power of Sword Specialization in Burning Crusade. When you trigger an extra attack with Sword Specialization, it always gives you an extra attack with your main hand weapon, regardless if it was triggered from your main hand or your offhand. We also have Weapon Expertise, which increases your expertise by 10 for just 2 talent points. Each point of expertise reduces your chance to be dodged or parried by 0.25% for all of your attacks, both your auto attacks and your special attacks. So this is very good. And 10 points is equivalent to about 39.5 expertise rating from items. So this is a huge amount of value. Again, for just 2 talent points. What a deal. And lastly, we have Surprise Attacks, which is pretty powerful but rather unremarkable. Your finishing moves can no longer be dodged, but expertise is already doing that to some extent, and it increases the damage of your Sinister Strike by 10%, which is quite good. So for this, you want a slow main hand sword 2.6 or 2.7 speed, and a fast offhand sword, 1.4 or 1.5 speed. And you'll be using Sinister Strike as your combo point builder for this Combat Swords talent specialization. Now let's look at this variant with a Mace and Sword or Fist and Sword combination. You're going to move some of the points from Assassination out of Vile Poisons over into Combat so that you can take both Mace specialization and Sword specialization, or if you're using a Fist and Sword, you'll take Fist and Sword specialization. You get all the same goodies as you do with the standard Combat Sword spec, you just don't get to double up on the Sword specialization. Mace and Fist specialization both offer damage increases, they just aren't quite as good as Sword specialization. So if you have very good Mace or Mace or Fist and a decent offhand sword, this can be a good choice to pick. You want a slow main hand Mace or Fist, 2.6 or 2.7 speed. You want a fast offhand sword, 1.4 or 1.5 speed, and you're going to be using Sinister Strike to generate combo points. Now, this is the exciting one, the Hemorrhage spec. You're taking 11 points into Assassination to get Relentless Strikes, 21 points into Combat to pick up Dual Wield Specialization and Blade Flurry, and in Subtlety you're going in 29 points, picking up Serrated Blades, Hemorrhage, Dirty Deeds, Preparation, and 4 ranks of the Deadliness talent. This talent specialization should only be used when your best non-sword weapons are substantially higher quality than your best swords. And for this talent specialization, the offhand weapon speed is not important, so you have a much wider selection of potential weapons for your offhand, since we don't have that valuable combat potency talent. You'll be using Hemorrhage, and roughly 120 of your damage per second will come from the Hemorrhage debuff alone. Now when you apply this debuff to the target, it allows your other raid members to do more damage to the target. Most of the damage gained from this debuff will not be reflected in your personal damage log, but you can justify it in that you are the one bringing this debuff to the raid that allows everyone else to do that additional damage. When you're casting a lot of Hemorrhages, you want to be sure to wait for the Hemorrhage debuff from your previous cast to clear before casting another. If you overlap them, you're going to be wasting charges and wasting value, losing damage, so you don't want to do that. For the Hemorrhage spec, you want to have a slow main hand weapon of any type, either 2.6 or 2.7 speed. And you can have any offhand weapon of any speed. And you'll be using Hemorrhage for your combo point builder. Now for the dagger specs. First, we're going to look at combat daggers. You have 15 points in Assassination, 41 in combat, and 5 in subtlety for the opportunity talent up here. You get most of the goodies of the combat tree, combat potency, so you're going to be looking for a fast offhand dagger. But this comes in roughly 11% worse than combat sword variants with similar quality weapons. So it's generally not desirable for a performance based player. Now, but remember, you want to pick your specialization based on the best available weapons you own. If you happen to have much higher quality daggers than you do swords, this might be a good pick for you. You want a slow main hand dagger, 1.8 or 1.9 speed, and a fast offhand dagger, 1.4 or 1.5 speed. And you're going to be using backstab to generate combo points. Finally, we have the Mutilate spec. It takes 41 points in Assassination to get Mutilate, 20 points in Combat to get Dual Wield Specialization. You might notice that we pass over this Opportunity talent in Subtlety, even though Opportunity increases the damage of our namesake ability, Mutilate, by 20%. It's not as powerful as increasing the damage of your offhand weapon by 50%. And that's essentially the trade you would be making. Either this talent or that talent. And this is the one you want. Now, Mutilate is an amazing spell. Attacks with both weapons, gives you 2 combo points, 50% increased damage against poison targets. Wow, that's a great spell. Unfortunately, the talents that surround it are not that great. You miss out on all those really juicy combat talents in the later stages of the combat tree. When you're playing Mutilate, you should use a finishing move when you get to either 4 or 5 combo points. You never want to force a 5 combo point finisher because that'll waste some combo points. Mutilate generates 2 points every time and will sometimes be generating 3 points due to the Seal Fate talent. And if you go from 4 to 5, you waste a lot of those additional combo points. So Mutilate comes in roughly 9% worse than the combat sword variants with similar quality weapons. And because of this, it's generally not the pick for a performance-oriented player. But again, you should be picking your specialization based on the best available weapons you own. If you happen to come across substantially better daggers than your other weapon types, this may be a fun pick to try out. You want a slow main hand dagger and a slow offhand dagger, 1.8 or 1.9 speed, and you'll be using Mutilate to generate your combo points. That's it for the talent overview. Thank you guys very much for watching, and be sure to join the Discord server. This is where you can ask rogue-related questions, and you can access the spreadsheet that I used to both to assess these different talent specializations and compare your options yourself. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.